Hey y'all, how's it going? So let me zoom out here. So I have my overnight highs here, overnight lows here. So we're in this overnight range, and I'll zoom in here. So my trades are this one and this one and this one, and I nearly got stopped out, and I ended up scratching it on this particular trade. And but yeah, I guess I'll get into that when I get into it. But oh, whoops, I didn't mean to grab that. All right, so we have these overnight highs, overnight lows. Now, notice here when price bounced off the overnight high here, it just tapped it and rocketed down very heavily. And then this leg up here has a break, new high. You can view this as a trend, so it's like uptrend, break, new high. So the uptrend technically played out at the highs. It didn't reach the measured move, but you're getting a bearish pin bar off the overnight high with this uptrend played out. And the way that it reacted before, just right before, was extremely strong just from tapping it. So I thought that this looked like a pretty good setup. And let me zoom into it more here. So when price can't close above at all, that means it's very, very strong resistance. So it's not the same as like say it like has a couple bars closing in here and then kind of closes back below. That's not the same as tapping it and just selling straight off. And so this is clearly a very strong level. That's why I didn't mind the short-term STT. It didn't bother me on this particular trade, which gets us to this trap right here. So it does work right here. It is a failed second entry. It's a reversal pattern coming straight off the highs. Now, generally, I don't like this. I don't like ones that look like this generally. Now, I think the reason that it worked here is because of, like I said, it was extremely strong. We couldn't get any closes above, and then both times we just rocketed down, both times straight through the EMA. So the momentum probably, but generally on reversal patterns, I don't like to enter at the very, very low of the move. And so it would first be drawn like this. The entry is very far from the EMA, and yeah, it's a third bounce off this very small trend line, but that doesn't mean it can't just break and stop you out. This is entering it's shorting very low. You want to short high, buy low. Like this short here was after two major pullbacks. This short here is after a major push down. So trades like this, I don't like. I would want the reversal pattern to have a deep pullback and is closer to the EMA. And this is just way too extended. It's really just one leg down. So I'm not a big fan of that. And then here, this downtrend extends a little bit. Excuse me. So downtrend here, we have a small break, new low, and as soon as we tap the overnight low, rockets off the other way, just like over here. That's a sign it's very strong. And we rush above the EMA. Now we get this higher low, which I guess I probably could mark it here as well, because you can't just take every higher low. Now, it did rocket off very strong, but if you enter this, you're entering very high. You're entering at the very high of the move. You're not entering on a good pullback. What I would want to see is something like, say you have this uptrend here. I would want to see like a good break and hold on the EMA. That would be much better. You don't want to just see it. It's just very thin. It's like one leg up. So you're not going to get like good RR trades consistently from that. But now this, I want to talk about this. I didn't mark this on purpose, but I kept this area in mind because let me extend this a little bit. So we have push up, and then you can see the two-legged break, and then you can see if you draw the STT, it does close out of it. So even though there's clear resistance and it's in this range, I honestly do think that this is an okay trade, because the reason that I think it's okay, and I don't think it's perfect, which is why I didn't mark it, but I think that even though it has these highs here, this is very strong. It just tapped it and rocketed straight off, so it's probably going to do okay, but I would not want to go for 1 to 2 on this, and I did not enter this or anything. It felt way too risky, and so, but in hindsight, this is hindsight, I do think that it looks okay because of how strong that was, and I'm going to be paying attention to that more often. So that's just something I wanted to mention. I think it's okay to push through there, but not for 1 to 2. It's just, it's not a perfect setup, but with the context, I think it's all right for 1 to 1. So anyway, then we have this. If I extend this uptrend here. So it's like we have this uptrend, which it didn't confirm off either side. We have once, twice on both sides, and then we do have a two-legged break. So it's a push up and then a two-legged break from this spike up from the lows. And I marked it right here for this bar because I don't think it's good to enter on these bars below the EMA. Now, it is a very strong push up, but we did rush back below the EMA, which means that we could be switching directions here. But when we held back above, I felt like it was fine enough just to go for 1 to 1. This isn't a 1 to 2 trade or anything. I'll draw the risk to reward here. So yeah, I would probably lower it 1 tick because of how strong it's been. I'd be afraid you get order tapped and then stopped if that happened. So anyway, we push out. Most breakouts fail. We immediately attempt to fade back in. We successfully break out this time. We can see these two legs up here. Okay, perfect. First leg, break. Second leg led to a breakout of the overnight. We immediately tried to fade back in. I don't see any good shorts here. I have this marked here because I think it does work again here, but I don't think it's a good trade. So it's basically a failed second entry. Now you might say first entry long here, second entry long failure, but really I see it as, on a slightly bigger picture, I see it as a push down, a break, a second push down, and then an attempt to go higher. But that's still a bit too short term, and even on that short term level, you already have those two legs down. You're entering at the very low of the move, kind of like over here again, except just on a shorter term. So I don't think there's anything good for a short right here. Now here, as a long, let me grab this channel here. So I did not enter this. I was busy I was talking to people in the site. Of course, I'm not saying I for sure would have taken it, because if you're gone for a trade, you can't say for sure whether you would have taken it or not, just a fact. But I think it looks okay. And the reason is because of how strong the breakout was. So we broke out of the overnight high, and then you see how we have a first attempt to fade, second attempt, failure. Oh wait, you know what I just realized? I accidentally skipped over this trade. I meant to be talking about this trade right here, which this one I did take. This one right over here I did not. So almost skipped over this, sorry. We broke out of the overnights. We have first attempt to fade, break, and then a much smaller second attempt, but after we held above the EMA and then got this good signal bar, I thought it was perfectly good to go for 1 to 1. Now, I didn't want to go for 1 to 2 because I didn't want to try to push it past this measured move and this swing while it's into new highs for the day. So I just thought 1 to 1 would be best to take it. But yeah, it looks pretty good. It's the first attempt to fade, second attempt to fade, failure. It's big picture. I'm not looking at each tick that goes by. Big picture trade, but yeah, it looks pretty good to me. And I saw, yeah, Rudin also took this trade, and one other guy. I forgot the name of the other guy. Sorry, but for me forgetting your name. But anyway, we don't reach the highs of this channel, so that is a sign that it could be weakening already after these two legs. So we have these two attempts to fade here, but we also have these two pushes higher here, and they didn't get to the other side. So that's a sign that it could start. Just be careful while you're in this trend here, going long, because it could end up breaking back down because it's clearly showing signs of resistance, and also it didn't. That's right after it passed the measured move here. So, but anyway, we break, and then as soon as we break, we close back out of this down channel and we rush above, and we immediately hold back above. We have this leg up here. We can expect a second leg because it's uptrend, break. You can expect 2 attempts at a new high. So first attempt, break, second attempt. You get a good signal bar for it. It traps, it ticks lower than that red bar, immediately triggers back higher. You're basically entering right where all these people went short here. So it's the weak shorts. They're still trying to fade the range. But anyway, so I think that looks pretty good. I saw a couple people took that in the site. So eventually I did extend this as more price action kept forming. We pushed higher. We tried to correct back to the EMA here, but we didn't reach it. We push higher again. We still don't quite reach it, so I don't like anything in there. Also, just terrible signal bars anyway. We push higher, and then we have these two legs back, and they don't quite reach the measured move, but it bounces off the key entry point. And I saw that someone took, I think it was Rudden, he took this right here after it closed out. So he entered like, he entered right on this bar right here after it closed out, which I think is good because he knew to avoid this one because it was still inside of this. Even though it's not confirmed, it's like holding along it. It's like it's not just like two bounces, like it's two bounces and then it's like going alongside it. So I would be worried about entering into something like this. So it's good he avoided that, and I was worried. That's why I didn't enter here. But he entered after it closed out. Now that's kind of cutting it close because it, you know, it could be slightly different. Like when you have these things drawn, it could be very slightly different with the wicks. So it looks like it probably closed in still. He was viewing it as it closed out. I think it closed in, but just because of the way that it's, you know, drawn, you know, it can be tricky sometimes. But so I thought that was a good place to avoid buying. But this right here, I do think is much better. I think it's good to enter, but I think that you would have to stay within the measured move here, which would mean that you might actually have to go for less than 1-to-1 if you got in with a stop order. And the reason I think that you should stay within the measured move on this trade, usually I don't mind pushing it a little bit past, assuming it's not into new highs. But I didn't like doing that here, or well, I actually did try to do that here. I didn't even draw the measured move until after it started turning against me, because I usually don't worry about just a few ticks. But considering we didn't reach the channel highs, and then we're closing back below the EMA on this entry right here. We're already closing back below the EMA, which means that this push higher might not be very strong, combined with we couldn't even get to the highs. So that's just a sign that it could start flattening out, becoming more bearish. Now, I still think it's good, but when you have but considering everything I just said about how it's possibly turning more bearish or flat, you should stay within the measured move. Try not to push it out of it, because it turned on the measured move here. Not exactly, it went a little bit higher, but I'll draw the risk to reward here. And I got in with a stop order, and it did not fill me. It came back against me, almost filled me, and then it came back here, and I just got out at break even. And I just didn't want to hold through that, so I just got out. And Rudden took this trade, like I mentioned, and he had to deal with this coming back against him, but he held in, and then he eventually got his target filled, so congrats on that. All right, so anyway, we're in this uptrend, and then we get a break, a couple attempts at a new high, and then it reverses back down. So I'll try to draw this out with these arrows to make it a little bit more clear. We have uptrend, break, first attempt higher, second attempt higher, and then a clear failure. And it's also a triple test right there. You know, I was thinking long. I think maybe there could, yeah. Because I was thinking long at the time, but it was starting to flatten out. The uptrend has a break, a couple attempts at a new high. I think I might have totally glossed over a decent looking entry here, because it's a triple test, 2 attempts at a new high. It doesn't make it, but you know, it's held down by this range. And then let me get this STT. So if I draw it like that, it does close out. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm kind of ashamed that I missed that, because I believe I was at the chart during this time. I was just kind of thinking long for some reason, and then I was looking for another thing. I didn't take anything over here, but There's something I think is good, but wait, let me stay on track here. Let me just get that drawn. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm actually ashamed that I missed that. Anyway, so uptrend break, a couple attempts at a new high. We plummet back down, triple test. I think it would be good to ride to the end of the range. You could extend that target a little bit. But anyway, we get these couple attempts down, and I do think there's a good long here after we get this close out. So not directly on that first green bar here. I'm talking about after we get that close out, because you have 2 legs down. It didn't quite reach the measured move, but we are off this channel. If you draw this channel here and you put the lows, it's bouncing off of it. I thought it was good because it closed out, and I was thinking if it triggers higher, it could trap straight down, but if it doesn't and it stays closed out up here, then I think it would be good. Anyway, well, I wasn't thinking that live because I did not take this live, but that's what I think about this trade. And so this trade here, I think, is an area to get trapped at. It does work. I actually marked a few that worked today, but quite a few of them were working today. But I don't like it because it could bounce off this downtrend here, and also for this trade, I think it's good for 1-to-1. I would want to get out before all this resistance because we have this smaller range inside of this bigger range, and we're into this, trend line. I wouldn't want to try to go too far. I saw one guy, he actually got out at the end of the range here, which, I mean, that's great. We did have a bullish bias, that is, and he had really good risk to reward as well. So, that can make up for it. You can afford more losses with better risk to reward, and take riskier things. But yeah, I would just want to get out before here. I don't think it's the best to push it to the highs on this, but yeah, this right here in particular, just taking this one as a trade right here, I think is a little bit risky, or I think it's extremely risky because it's into so much stuff at once. It couldn't get above the EMA. It could barely get above the channel. It was still kind of trying to reject it, and it's also into this trend line here. It's just into so many things all at once. But anyway, and that really took off. Looks like we could have something like this here, this kind of uptrend here. So we push higher, we get these shallow corrections, we finally reach the EMA. I haven't really done analysis for this part yet, this last few bars over here. So you get a breakout of this little range here, you're off the EMA, you immediately close back below the EMA. I'm going to try to, yeah, honestly, I don't think that there's anything good there, because if you draw it all the way off of these bars right like that, then you don't even get to the lows. So I don't think there's anything there. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, no, it doesn't look good. It's just one leg down, short, and it closed below the EMA, and you're not reaching these lows. I don't see anything good there. Now, anyway, so looks like that's it for the video, and yeah, y'all have a good day.